Officer Rick Michaels pocketed a tiny vial of amber liquid, unaware it would unravel the corruption in his precinct, destroy his career, and put his life in grave danger. When he discovered the vial was the key to clearing a black billionaire fighting systemic injustice, Rick found himself at the center of a game where every move could be his last. What he did next shocked even those who'd seen it all. But let's start at the beginning. The precinct hummed with an uneasy stillness, the kind that makes you hear every creak and shuffle. Officer Rick Michaels sat at his desk, tapping a pen against a coffee-stained report, when a young patrol officer approached, holding a small package. "This came from the scene on 5th and Broadway," the patrolman said, a slight tremor in his voice. The package was plain but expensive-looking, its crisp brown wrapping bearing only a small, embossed logo, 2 interlocking triangles. A return address was scrawled in neat black ink, an exclusive neighborhood known for its gated mansions and tight-lipped residents. Rick frowned, intrigued. His career wasn't built on diligence or integrity. His reputation for cutting corners was as well known as his knack for sniffing out personal gains in official matters. Taking the package, Rick glanced around. The precinct was nearly deserted this late in the evening. Perfect. He retreated to the evidence room, where flickering fluorescent lights cast uneven shadows on the walls. The faint buzz of electricity seemed to sync with his heartbeat as he placed the package on the steel table. He hesitated, fingers hovering over the seal. Opening evidence without authorization was risky, but Rick had survived on risky moves. He grabbed a utility knife and made a clean cut. The contents surprised him. Nestled inside was a small glass vial, its amber liquid catching the light like molten gold. Rick tilted it, watching the liquid swirl. A folded note sat beside the vial, the paper's texture smooth and heavy. He unfolded it carefully, reading the words scrawled in bold handwriting. "For A. Carter. Handle with care." Rick's brow furrowed. The name sparked recognition. Alexander Carter, the reclusive black tech billionaire, had been a hot topic in law enforcement circles. Whispers of secret projects, corporate sabotage, and high-profile lawsuits swirled around him like a storm cloud. The feds had been circling him for months, though no one in the precinct knew exactly why. Rick guessed this liquid had something to do with it. He held the vial to his nose and sniffed cautiously. No odor. Was it dangerous? Valuable? Rick's mind raced. To anyone else, this might be just another piece of evidence, a dot to connect in a convoluted case. But Rick saw it differently. This wasn't a clue. It was a ticket. Slipping the vial into his pocket, he let the paper fall back into the package. He'd seen enough. If Carter was at the center of a federal investigation, someone would pay handsomely for this. Rick knew people, fixers, middlemen, who thrived in the gray spaces of law and order. He could sell it back, no questions asked. As he left the evidence room, his heart thumped with the thrill of the scheme. What he didn't realize was that he'd just set a much bigger plan into motion, one that would unravel his career and put him squarely in the crosshairs of powers far beyond his control. The next morning, Rick Michaels shuffled into the precinct, coffee in hand and dark circles under his eyes. The fluorescent hum of the station seemed louder than usual, his nerves amplifying every sound. The moment he sat at his desk, the buzz began. Whispers, hurried footsteps, and muted phone calls. Something big was brewing. On the communal TV in the break room, the morning news anchor's voice cut through the din. Tech billionaire Alexander Carter's legal team accuses local police of mishandling key evidence in an ongoing investigation. Rick's breath hitched, but he didn't turn to look. He could feel eyes darting toward him, though no one said anything. Keeping his expression neutral, he buried himself in paperwork. The tension spiked when the precinct doors slammed open, and Detective Simon, a no-nonsense investigator known for his relentless pursuit of justice, strode in. "Everyone, listen up," Simon's voice echoed. "We've got orders from the top. Full inventory of all recent evidence, effective immediately. No exceptions." Rick's heart pounded as he slipped out of the room. He couldn't let them find the vial. It was still tucked away in the hidden compartment of his gym bag, a place no one but Rick would dare touch. He needed to act fast. An hour later, Rick sat in the dimly lit back room of a run-down pawn shop. Across the scratched wooden table sat Gabe, a fixer with a reputation for making problems disappear, for the right price. Gabe was a wiry man, with sunken cheeks and perpetually bloodshot eyes. His expression darkened as Rick slid the vial across the table. "What the hell is this?" Gabe muttered, examining the amber liquid under the single dangling bulb. "You didn't just bring me some drugstore junk, did you?" It's valuable," Rick stammered, his confidence unraveling. "Carter's team is looking for it. It's tied to some tech or research project." At that, Gabe's head snapped up. He stared at Rick for a long moment before leaning back in his chair. "You idiot," he hissed. "This isn't just some tech. This is a synthetic compound from Carter's labs, a bio-research breakthrough worth millions, maybe more." Rick swallowed hard. "Millions?" he repeated, half in awe, half in terror. Gabe shook his head, his expression grim. "Do you have any idea what kind of heat this brings? People kill for less. You think you're safe because you're a cop? Wrong. If word gets out that you have this, your badge won't protect you. Hell, it might make you an even bigger target." Rick felt the weight of the words pressing down on him. I didn't know," he stammered. "I just thought—" "That's your problem," Gabe snapped. "You didn't think. Get rid of it. Now. Before it's too late." Rick sat frozen, the gravity of his theft sinking in. This wasn't just about saving his career. It was about saving his life. As Gabe pushed the vial back toward him, Rick realized he was in far deeper than he'd ever imagined, with no easy way out. At the same time that Rick was desperately scheming to cover his tracks, Alexander Carter's team was quietly mobilizing. Carter, known for his brilliance in tech innovation, had built his fortune on leveraging cutting-edge systems, and this crisis was no exception. Within hours of learning about the mishandled evidence, his cybersecurity experts pinpointed the location of the missing package, the local precinct. Surveillance data and delivery logs confirmed its trajectory, narrowing it to Officer Rick Michaels. While Carter's legal team publicly decried the precinct's incompetence, the billionaire deployed his private security team to handle the matter discreetly. His instructions were clear: retrieve the vial at all costs, but avoid unnecessary bloodshed. The stakes were too high to let this turn into a public scandal. Back at the precinct, Rick's growing paranoia hit a breaking point. His supervisor, barking orders for a full evidence inventory, was closing in on him. Each passing moment made it harder to fake composure. Unable to endure the pressure, Rick grabbed his bag and bolted. His abrupt departure didn't go unnoticed. Questions would follow, and answers would be demanded. But Rick didn't care. His only focus was escape. Hours later, Rick weaved through downtown, his movements erratic and desperate. The alleys felt like mazes, shadows closing in with every turn. He was so preoccupied that he didn't hear the footsteps until it was too late. A heavy hand clamped onto his shoulder, spinning him around. Two men in black suits, their expressions cold and professional, flanked him. One held up a badge, Not police, but private security. Before Rick could react, they guided him firmly but without malice into an unmarked van, waiting nearby. The door slammed shut, muffling the city's noise. Inside, a small monitor blinked to life. The face of Alexander Carter appeared on the screen. Even through the grainy video, Carter's presence was magnetic. He wore a dark suit, his expression calm but unwavering. "Officer Michaels," Carter began, his voice smooth but carrying an edge. "Do you know what you've stolen?" Rick, sweat trickling down his temple, stammered, "Look, I didn't mean—" Carter held up a hand, silencing him. "That vial isn't just a research compound," he continued. "It's evidence. Evidence that can exonerate me and dismantle a corrupt corporation that's been bleeding communities like mine dry for years. You didn't just take a trinket. You took a weapon in a much larger fight." Rick's heart pounded as he tried to explain. "I didn't know. I didn't mean—" "Stop," Carter said sharply. "I'm not interested in excuses. I'm interested in action. You're going to return it, Officer Michaels. Not only that, you're going to help us expose the corruption in your precinct." Rick froze, his mind racing. "Expose?" he echoed. "You want me to turn on them? They'll kill me." Carter's tone softened slightly. "You don't have a choice, Michaels. Either you help us, or you lose everything. Your badge, your freedom, maybe even your life. But if you do the right thing, there's a chance to make this right." The screen went dark. The security team handed Rick a burner phone and a grim warning. "Follow the instructions, or we'll be back." As the van sped off, leaving Rick in the alley, he realized he was no longer in control. This wasn't just about his career. It was about survival. Rick's return to the station was met with shock and confusion. He handed the vial to his superiors, stammering out an apology. But Carter had already taken steps to ensure the truth came out. Media outlets received encrypted files detailing Rick's theft and the police mishandling of evidence. The scandal exploded. Rick was arrested, and the precinct faced widespread criticism. Carter, vindicated, used the incident to spotlight systemic corruption in law enforcement. The incident ignited public outcry, forcing reforms that the department could no longer ignore. In the aftermath, Rick sat in a cell, contemplating how one moment of greed had cost him everything. Carter, meanwhile, stood on the steps of City Hall, promising to use his resources to fight injustice, proving that power in the right hands could be transformative.